I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Russian Federation.
Mr. President, the Russian Federation is active in international cooperation for emergency humanitarian assistance. Our country regularly supports the major UN humanitarian agencies and also sends rescue teams, qualified experts, and humanitarian assistance to regions suffering from natural disasters and armed conflicts. In 2018, Russian financing for the UN humanitarian agencies and its direct contributions to humanitarian appeals surpassed $80 million. We are a donor to OCHA and support its work to coordinate humanitarian agencies and NGO partners. Moreover, $1.5 million are provided yearly to the Central Emergency Response Fund, which we consider to be a key and universal instrument in financing humanitarian assistance in the early stages of an emergency. We support the UN Secretary General's call to increase the fund's capitalization to $1 billion, taking into account the increased need for assistance globally. Speaking of attracting resources for humanitarian assistance, we cannot but mention one innovative method, namely that of anticipatory forecast-based financing. During the negotiations on this resolution, we had the opportunity to exchange views with delegations on this topic and to listen to experts. And we decided to promote this modality in financing humanitarian assistance. We expect that humanitarian organizations will take it on board in the near future. We also agree with the call from many delegations to continue broadening and diversifying the club of donors. We welcome the club's new Arab state members and expect that they will have long-term partnerships with the humanitarian community. We are closely following the development of UN World Bank cooperation. In the future, it could facilitate a flow of additional funds, and this is certainly a good trend. However, such assignations, in our view, must fulfill the goals and principles of the humanitarian community and should not be tied to concepts being promoted at the UN that are not widely supported. Mr. President, we are only beginning to assess the effects of the reforms taking place currently in the development system on the humanitarian assistance system. In our opinion, the formula of transitioning from humanitarian assistance to rehabilitation and development has not outlived its usefulness, as some delegations believe, but remains ideal in planning the work of UN bodies at the country level. Most importantly, it guarantees a clear and understandable distribution of mandates and ensures a so-called humanitarian space, which we understand to mean allowing humanitarian agencies to consistently adhere to humanitarian principles. This is why we are not ready to support the concept championed by many partners of a nexus between humanitarian assistance, development, peace building, and human rights. Coordination amongst these fields does need to be developed, but combining them and creating confusion in mandates, guidelines, and resources is something we consider counterproductive. And we wish to remind the Secretariat and humanitarian agencies that there isn't agreement amongst member states on the concept of a nexus, and we ask that this be kept in mind in their work. We once again stress that the guidelines for the humanitarian community must continue to be the humanitarian principles defined in Resolution 46182. We insist on their inviolability and call on all participants in international humanitarian assistance to be neutral and impartial and to respect state sovereignty as laid out in the aforementioned resolution. It is absolutely unacceptable to use the humanitarian agenda as a lever to achieve political gains. We're of the same view when it comes to any attempts to link future humanitarian assistance to domestic political processes. This is inhumane and unfair to those in need. Mr. President, with all the difficulties and differences in states' approaches to humanitarian response, we need to find a common ground. 136 million people need our help, but they equally need us to reach agreement. Solving this multifaceted problem is only possible if there is mutual trust and respect, and not a lack of unity. Thank you for your attention.
I thank the distinguished representative of the Russian Federation